Self-Publishing Podcast, episode number 110.
This episode of the Self-Publishing Podcast is brought to you by 99 Designs, the online marketplace that helps you get outstanding book cover designs at an affordable price. Start your custom design today at 99designs.com/SPP and enjoy a free Power Pack upgrade valued at $99.
Welcome to the Self-Publishing Podcast, where if you want something done right, you've got to do it yourself. And now, here are your hosts, three guys who are down with OPP, Johnny, Sean, and Dave.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the Self-Publishing Podcast, the podcast that's all about how to get your words out into the world without contending with agents, publishers, or the other gatekeepers in traditional publishing. I'm Johnny B. Truant, and the other two guys are David Wright, who is the cleaner shaven of the two today, I think, with Sean's dark-ass beard, and Sean Platt. So there you go. I can tell that Fiction Unboxed is getting to Sean. He's looking at him, and the admin.
He stopped giving fucks.
I did. I'm fresh out. I'll have more tomorrow, hopefully. It's actually been so long that my both of my children last night pet my face and said, because usually if I haven't shaved for a few days, it's real rough, it's real hard.
So you haven't shaved for like what, 3-4 hours?
No, it's been since the weekend, and both Ethan and Haley last night were like petting it, and now it's past being sharp into being soft, and so they asked if I would go one more day, and I said sure.
And so Cindy was totally on board with that?
Oh no, she wasn't. She actually asked them each if they hated her. So yeah, that's how that went down.
That's fantastic. I'll tell you, I know that probably from the big push that we did for Fiction Unboxed, people are probably sick of it, but it's fascinating from a writing standpoint, and it's because we're into it now. And
there's a lot to talk about here.
Huge, fascinating insights into the writing process and collaborative work. I have thoughts on that today. Amazing.
Carl said he was watching, I think, your fourth video.
The one where we implode? No, that's third.
John looked absolutely beat. And he said at one point you guys were talking about, because I didn't watch it yet. Sean, he was saying you guys were talking about how you're going to have this city underground, and Johnny's like, well, how will they breathe or do anything? You're like, I don't know, a machine.
No, Sean normally looks that way in our story meetings. I don't think he was beaten by that one.
No, I wasn't.
Well, Carl said you also looked like, you're just like looking at Sean like, Thanks for just putting it all on me. Science, that's the answer.
Oh, no, that's normal. I don't think either of us had any of that.
No, I think
Carl putting his shit on us.
Right. That's Carl's baggage. All right, here's what the thing was. We were each like, normally that's not a big deal because normally if we're, and here is a true area where we had to do things slightly different than we would have otherwise, because we really are trying to capture as true a representation of our process as possible. Normally, we would have just changed the subject and meandered for a half hour or something before getting back to the point and the story, and it would have been like a reboot. But we couldn't do that with the camera rolling. It just seemed weird to waste everyone's time. So that was really cool to do that reset in that way. That's one of my favorite moments of the whole project so far, was that just total falling on our face and then kind of sweeping the floor and starting over. That was awesome.
If you're not watching Fiction Unboxed, what we're talking about is we did on day 3, we had a meeting, and it was at like 2:30 Eastern, and we were just going to go and then be done. And by the end of that meeting, Sean had brought this whole world outline. He had this whole chronology for several thousand years. And I don't know about Dave because I don't know Dave's meeting demeanor. I don't know his meeting face, like your O face. But I was confused because it was very different from what we had talked about the day before. And Dave seemed underwhelmed. And we got to the end of that session after an hour and a half of talking, and we were all like, okay, we don't know what to do now. The cameras are watching us. We are on a live stage. We don't have a story. We don't know what to do. And so we literally broke for an hour and then came back. Just Sean and I came back the second time with the seeds of ideas. And by that, the next day was the one Dave was talking about that was actually very exciting. And I started writing it yesterday, and oh my God, am I in love with this story? It's just it's steampunk Lord of the Rings. It's sort of a YA vibe. I started at the Ministry today. Like, I don't want to go into this too much because that we should, save that for an actual meeting. But like that stuff is really cool. I'm at the Blunderbuss. That's coming out. I know, or
we've had many emails from people wanting to know that, make sure that we know what a blunderbuss is. And so yes, we absolutely know that a blunderbuss is not this, but we're going to do it so the weapons blunderbuss get their names from the machine because they're fluted at the top like that.
There you go.
So yeah.
But I mean, I like how real that was, and I think that a lot of people, like, if you're out there and you've ever been brainstorming and gotten frustrated and been like, this is never going to work, that happens to all of us, and I'm really, really glad it was captured. I'm really glad. I mean, especially since we had the resolution, I'm glad that we can see that. Okay, we didn't know what to do there, and we just regrouped and figured it out.
I wonder how painful that part is to watch. I imagine at least a little bit, just like. Oh, what's going to happen now?
I'm in pain.
You're always in pain, though. When are you not in pain? I was. It was one I don't want to listen back to. I listened back to the day 4 meeting, which was the one before I started writing. That was really enthusiastic. That's the one where Carl thought that we were both in pain, but neither of us were. Those are our excited vibes.
Was that the one with Coyote Sawyer?
Coyote Sawyer was.
No, that was the next day. That was the next day. Right.
Yeah. But I
Coyote Sawyer was part 2.
In an actual, because I had more questions, like just sort of whatever.
Yeah, we need to make another meeting too. But I'm through it a second time, and it's cast for all of you who care. The story is now cast.
But you know what I'm really thankful for is separate from Fiction Unboxed or anything, but it's still at fictionunboxed.com if you want to get in. But separate from that, this morning, the stuff, Sean, like, I thought that was really cool. I'll describe this in a second, and I think it's a lesson for anybody.
You mean our mistakes, our snafus?
No, I'll just describe it. So for anybody who's working in a collaborative relationship, and I think that applies to anybody who has partners or anybody who works with anybody, like even if you aren't a collaborator, you work with a cover designer or whatever. And so here's what happened. And by the way, our guest today, I should mention this, in 20 minutes or so, we're going to have Ashley Coombe on to talk about social media. She's got a whole kind of thing figured out. So we are not going to ignore social media for today at least, and we'll see if she can convince us that it's awesome. But what happened was, this has been an overwhelming process trying to scramble and write a book live, and yesterday I sent out the Realm and Sands email, and the Fat Vampire Value Meal was on sale for 99 cents, so I said okay, fine, and then we had some audiobook promo codes to give out, and so I said, okay, if you want it, reply to this email and say, there's only so many available. And we've done that sort of thing before, but we haven't done it in precisely this way. And anyway, Sean got 500,000 emails. And it's the worst time to get that much stuff because it's just like he's already drowning in admin. And so we were going back and forth, and I was like, man, I'm really sorry about that. Like, I didn't know that was going to happen, and we didn't really have another way, but I'm sorry you're drowning in these emails. And he's like, what bugs me is that I can't get to the beats for Blunderbuss, which is the working title. It won't actually be that, for the Fiction Unboxed novel. And I said, well, dude, I've already started writing. I've put in 2 days of writing. Like, don't worry about the beats. Your beats are good. If you don't get to them at all anymore, I can keep going. I'm confident, 100%. He's like, well, yeah, but I want to flesh them out. Like, I want to work on that. And I said, well, you can do that retroactively. Like, that's cool. We got it. And anyway, so the long story short here, what I came to realize, and I think this is really kind of cool, like cool in our partnership, is I was thinking, it didn't occur to me that, like, that's almost kind of an accidentally arrogant way for me to look at it, because this is Sean's part of the process. It isn't about providing enough beats so that I feel secure. It's like, if I say, fuck it, you can stop or something like that. Like that's the part that he loves. Like that's your creative input. And I guess I just didn't. I'm glad that I had that realization because it's like, oh, you know, it would be arrogant of me to just be like, yeah, fuck it, I got it. Step out, go answer emails, you know, admin boy.
Yeah, you know what's awesome about that though is that I finally I just wanted to go because I sent Johnny last night. This whole thing is just running because normally we would have a little bit of time to get the beats for the story. And I've said from the beginning, it's this stretch right here that I was most concerned about because it would feel rushed no matter what. And so last night I finished. I wrote. I think it's about 6,500 words. I'm gonna guess.
It's huge.
Yeah, beats for the whole story, for start to finish. This is what has to happen, and they were a little long. Maybe a little too much story, so I needed stuff to trim, and I just wanted more time with it. And so, but I was in email for about 5 hours this morning, and so I just I really wanted to get to. I really wanted to get to it. Wanted to get to it. No, it's fine. I really wanted to get to it, and then when I finally did, I've already gone through them a second time. And they're like 95% the same, and I felt so happy because I expected to change a lot of stuff the second time through, but I'm happy. I think there's good story there. I'm content with it. I don't feel like I need to tweak too much. There's a lot to fill. Yeah.
No, go ahead.
Well, there's a lot to fill in. Well, there's a lot to fill in, certainly, but it's all stuff that we need more meetings. Like. Adding anything now is stupid because it's going to be unraveled by the next few days of story. And it was just a really good place to be in. And then I just moved to casting and I breezed through that because I could see everyone in my head. So really good so far.
But he was just like, oh, but I want to get in now. Well, it's malleable. Like I don't want to be retroactive. But I think that's a really good lesson for anybody who works with anybody else because. You know, or if you're in a marriage, like we joke about comparing these partnerships of ours to a marriage, but it's like that. Like it's real easy for me to think of, well, here's the relationship from my perspective, rather than here's how Robin might see it, because we see the world through our own filter. And with Sean and this Beats thing, I was like, dude, don't worry about it. Go ahead and take the time because I got it. Like, I got it. I don't need any more beats. It'd be awesome if you gave them to me, but I don't need them. But you're like, but that's what I want to do. I want to do it. I want to be part of the story rather than just letting you do it.
We got 2 comments. Garrett Robinson says, I think I'm going to email Sean offering verbal support and encouragement in handling his massive volume of emails.
Verbal support.
Helen Martin says, it was honest and open, and Sean, I loved your timeline and was urging Johnny to love it too.
Oh no, but you know what? I don't think he didn't love it. It was,
and she said Gilly.
Yeah, it was. Just, I think it was a matter of it was really okay. So we had to build this whole world for this story, and we've never done that before. It really is going through the back door when we normally don't do that. We start with a story and our characters, and everything goes from there. And we probably misspent some time trying to figure out how to do that. And to me, it was really important to just make up this whole timeline. Anything could happen from that point forward. I just had to know how we got to that point. And both Johnny and Dave correctly were thinking, it doesn't really matter. We'll figure out what happened later. Let's just go forward. And so anyway, bouncing back from that was awesome. I don't think if the timeline would have worked if we were telling a different story. It was just not congruent with what they expected.
But I also think that people are, I mean, I talked about the little collaboration thing, the little relationship thing that anybody can apply. And I like that people are, I mean, if you want to write as an island, like, that's awesome. Like, I did that for a while, but you will probably always have people you'll work with. You'll have, like I said, cover designers or editors, or you're always going to have relationships. And I love how everything we do here is about a team. And I think it's really like there's a collaboration thread in the Fiction Unboxed forums that's like 10 pages long or something.
So long. Yeah. And a lot of little groups have sprung up from that. Okay, here's a comment I saw in the forums that I think a lot of people can relate to. I don't remember who said it. This is going to happen a lot. But the person said, oh my God, I'm so happy right now because I just realized I do have a collaborator. I've always had a collaborator. And then they go on to talk about the nature of their
Was it
spouse.
Jesus? Oh.
Jesus is
Their husband.
my autobiography.
Their husband, they always bounce ideas out loud, and her husband helps find the plot holes and new directions to go into, and that it's exactly like us talking. It's really the same thing. It's just, I wasn't thinking of him as a collaborator, but that's exactly it. What Johnny said, you don't have to write and actually share copy to have collaborators. You can have collaborators that just help you break your story down into manageable pieces where you can attack one little piece at a time and tell a better story.
How is it? So I just mentioned that whole thing, Dave, between me and Sean and stuff. Have you guys? I mean, you guys have been a married couple for a lot longer. Like,
For so long.
Is it to the point where you just are used to each other and you just say, well,
the magic is gone?
Yeah. Hey, Sean, go out and mow the lawn. That's
no. I'm still trying to find ways to spice it up. It's he's bored with me. He thinks I'm too demanding in bed. That's the problem.
Oh, God.
I want it too often.
Well, Sean doesn't write the beats for me, so it's not the same situation.
But I'll bet that you have to learn each other's foibles in terms of this is because I have this weird thing, like, I don't know that it's weird, but it's how I am. Like, I think I come across as very direct and confident and brash sometimes. And what happened today was, like, I was realizing that I don't know, like, I looked like I was taking control of the story, probably, because I have control of it during this phase. And so then Sean's like, well, but I want this, I want to do this, I want to be part of this. The beat stuff, and I was like, well, but now I'm feeling guilty about all those emails. It seemed like something with a couple, and I'm like, oh no, I'm making it about me again.
No, because the thing is, like, your part won't get rushed, really. Like, you're still word for word. It's the same process, right? Like, once we get the story rolling, you've got the beats, you write to them, you pass them on, right? But because of the nature of this project, that pre-production, which is, one of my sweet spots, it has to get compressed. Like, there's no way around that. It's the one part of the project that is most compressed by nature of the entire rest of the project, which has always made me just a little bit at the beginning. But we do have enough, and I'm so happy. Like, we're so greased at this point that really, like, when I looked through those beats again, I was like, this is all we need for right now. Like, more can come later. This is great.
But my point is that thus proving that you are the woman in this relationship, I, like a typical man, was thinking how to solve the problem rather than thinking of your feelings.
Oh.
He's going to go vomit. I still bring him roses, Dave. It's been really cool because
you bring me words. I like those better than flowers.
I'll just show this. I just picked this up. I'm glad I didn't pitch it because I'm done with it. It's helped to, like, illuminate my process, and I didn't realize I told this story on Unboxed, but this is if you can see this on YouTube, like, this is the stuff that Sean sent me. These are like pre-beats. This is like story stuff, and I do this weird thing where I completely mark them up like this, and I write, like, down in the corners where there's no room, rather than actually giving myself room. And it's the meta is helping me to learn about my process, and I think we'll all be better writers after this.
Oh yeah.
You too. You were part of the world building and stuff. You know what it made me want to do?
Yeah,
Dave?
but notice that Dave hasn't watched one video since then. He's totally not
finishing crap. I don't want to get involved in your story. I got my own story to work on.
But it made me want to work as a three-way, right? Like, you got to spice it up. It made me want to collaborate. Now, I think that Dave and I will have some issues where I will write something and he'll say, no, you did that wrong.
I'm way controlling.
Or something. So I don't know if that's possible, but this was not.
Yeah, I know how we can all work together, but Dave writing you beats is not part of that
You'll
equation.
have to tie me up and blindfold me.
Oh, well, that's another way to spice it up. Look at all the sexual metaphors flying around. Hey, I wanted to mention before we move on, I wanted to give a shout out to Darren Waremouth, because
Speaking of sexual metaphors.
Speaking of sexual metaphors, the Alaskan Pipeline. Darren was on our show 2 episodes ago, or was it just last week?
Yeah.
It's been a long
No, it was 2
week.
episodes ago.
And he and Colin Barnes talked about the use of keywords to get into various categories. So if you listen to episode 108 again, if you haven't heard that, like that's where he talks about it, where they talk about it. And Darren, I emailed him and I said, he had offered to push the Fat Vampire value mail to his list to let him know. He said, let me know when that's on sale. So I did. And then he says, you should really work on your keywords. And I said, well, I got vampire in there. I have whatever. He said, you should be on this list, paranormal vampires. And I'm like, well, but I got vampire in the keyword. And anyway, he then got on a hangout like this with me, like immediately, and talked me through a lot of it. So big public thanks to Darren. But the bottom line was, this seems really obvious, but it didn't occur to me. You'd have to, I don't have the link, you'd have to look for it. It's on the Amazon help pages, the categories. I think it's in the last write-up for 108. There are certain categories in, subcategories in science fiction, fantasy, there's some in romance, there's a few of them, where you need to put in certain keywords to actually be in those categories, and they're like hidden categories that you can only access that way. But in order to be in one of those, you need to be in the higher categories. So, for instance, one category that I'm in right now is it's paranormal / vampires, but it's a subcategory of mystery, thriller, and suspense. Like what? So I needed to make sure I was in thrillers. So Fat Vampire Value Meal is in thrillers, suspense. The suspense is the subcategory. So in the KDP dashboard, it's like thriller, suspense, which I would never ever have put this in. But it is a suspenseful vampire story, and so the full category is mystery, thriller, and suspense, paranormal, vampires. And I'm also in like dark fantasy vampires. And so that was really, really interesting to. We should have him back on to talk through it, because I ended up being.
I think keywords is something everyone, including us, can.
It puts you
better.
in extra categories where you're going to be more relevant. So I think that my main categories right now are thriller, suspense, which what the fuck, and fantasy, dark fantasy. But I have keywords for vampire, political, because there's like a political subcategory. There's I don't even remember, but it's a whole thing where you can look through those keyword lists and say, well, I want to be in this subcategory, and then you get more exposure. So kudos. Thanks to Darren for that.
Thank you, Darren.
Yeah, well, you don't have to thank him, just me.
You
can tell him to fuck off if you want. But before we begin, I just have a question for Dave.
For Dave? Oh, okay. What is that?
Yeah. I'm a little nervous to ask it, Dave. It's very personal.
Those are my favorite kinds of questions. So
well, if you could give one piece of advice to writers, Dave, what would it be?
Don't write a book called Space Shuttle.
Ha ha, you cock. No, seriously, what advice?
Well, the first thing I'd tell people is to write all the time, even when the words won't come, especially when the words won't come. But the second piece of advice I'd give is to make sure that they have a great book cover.
Holy shit! I did not expect that answer. Well, that's easier said than done, Dave, but do you think we're some sort of expert in ninja cover design?
No, we don't need to be.
What? Did you just figure out some secret to making great covers? I'm ad-libbing.
The secret to making great covers is don't do it yourself.
Holy shit, that sucks.
Why spend tons of hours learning both design and how to use a design program like Photoshop to make your book cover, when you can hire experts who already know what they're doing?
Yeah.
Time is more valuable than money. Wouldn't you rather spend more time on what you should be doing, writing? Let the experts at 99 Designs come up with a cover for you.
99 Designs? What is that, you shill? Oh, I'm sorry. I was reading a text from Robert Bruce.
Man, you got some short-term memory issues. 99 Designs is an online marketplace where thousands of graphic designers are ready to tackle any creative product, from logos to book cover designs. You can get a totally, stop laughing. You get a totally custom bestseller where they cover design for just $299. Sean and I used them for Dark Crossings, the collection cover, and it was awesome. We got a bunch of designs back, more than we could even, choose from. They were all great.
Wait a minute, the Dark Crossings cover? You've never told that story before. Sean, do you want to interrupt and talk about who might have used that guy? Okay, sorry.
You start off by filling out an online brief with details about your book and what you're looking for on the cover. Then dozens of designers compete to deliver the best design. After the initial designs, you pick the ones you like, and then you give feedback to the designers to help them refine their work, and then you pick the winner. You can even get your readers involved and have them help pick the winner. I highly recommend 99 Designs, and the best part is that 99 Designs offers a 100% money-back guarantee, so you
have anything to lose?
Nothing to lose. Nothing at all.
Okay, excellent, excellent. So start your custom design today at 99designs.com/SPP. I'm crying here. And enjoy a free Power Pack upgrade valued at $99. A Power Pack gives you more designer time and attention, so you'll get nearly twice as many designs to help you choose from. 99designs.com/SPP.
And now, incredibly horrible, deprecating, embarrassing, but memorable ad read, only from our hosts, Johnny and Dave. Because Sean always screws it up.
For you, Johnny.
Yes.
If you were going to get captioning... No, I'm just kidding.
Oh no, we'll save that totally impromptu.
I am wondering if we'll get like an email from the people at 99 Designs saying, "Could you please stop laughing during the ad?"
But if they're a smart company, which of course they are,
they're geniuses.
They're geniuses. They understand that what matters is talking about them in a way where we have used them before, we like them, we love them, and that the actual ad read. Laughing does not matter.
No, this ad read would work on me way better than something that was pro. We're
not pro at all.
Pro.
No. You want a pro ad read? You're going to the wrong.
Can we contact them to renew and just lead with that? We are not pro. Just so you guys know, we're not at all professional. You send us reads, we will fuck them up.
And in fact, over time, they're going to get less professional. If you think this is a trend that might reverse,
like, you know what I mean? If you keep having us do it, we're like, oh, well, now you're complicit.
Yes, we will keep moving the wall.
Do you want to bring Ashley in?
Now would be a great time.
Okay, good. Maybe we can get her to participate in the caption access read. I'll just go ahead and invite her. I got too many windows open here. I'm trying to find. Look at that, on time today with the actual.
Wow,
that's pretty good.
Might we end the show at 3?
No, I think Fiction Unboxed just made us very time conscious. That's all. We'll fall off the wagon afterward.
Yes. Hey, Ashley. I see her avatar.
I see her avatar.
You may have. Ooh, I hear an echo as well, which is good.
Oh, I love the echoes.
If we were professionals, we would probably go through and edit out the time when we greet guests improperly. There she is. Hey, Ashley. Everybody, this is Ashley. Ashley Coombe. What is for today? What is your best official intro accreditation, whatever? Because I know you do a whole lot of stuff.
The one I would say in public?
Yeah, don't say what you said in Denver.
Okay. I do the marketing for 2 different companies. One is Prosperant and the other is Sharist.
And what would those companies do, Ashley?
Something better than 99 Designs, apparently.
Hey!
No, they're awesome! No! What are you talking about? That's awesome.
I was just listening to you guys' commercial.
That's
gone!
That wasn't a commercial. That was a natural exchange of ideas.
No, they are awesome. We are the ones who are not pros.
Oh, okay. Sharist is a content marketing platform, so it helps people manage their social media and publish to WordPress blogs and set up social media scheduling, all of that. Prosperant is an affiliate marketing company. We build tools for people who want to make money on their websites.
Sean, do you want to do the brief intro of how we know Ashley? Because it's not just like she contacted us and said,
"Oh yeah, so sure." So Johnny and I were in Denver for the Copy Bloggers Authority intensive, I guess it was called, like a month ago, and we met Ashley. And Ashley is, I mean, she'll talk to you or us about social media, but really, Ashley's. I think what was really awesome about Ashley, I think she could talk even more about like the value of in-person networking, maybe. Because Ashley is one of the most natural, fluid networkers I've ever seen. Like
so she's the opposite of me.
Yes. No, we actually have a list going
if
of the
you guys
ways
meet in person, you will annihilate each other. Like,
right.
Matter.
Like you'll try to hug, but you will repel one another. It will be fascinating.
I like that with most women, though.
Do you guys remember the actual exact moment that I met you, though? Do you remember how we met?
Yeah, we were here. I'll tell that story because I like it so much, and plus I like cutting.
Careless Whisper playing in the background.
You want to sing it, Dave?
Careless Whisper.
So we had been bugging the shit out of the Copy Blogger people to speak. Like Sean and I were like, "Can we speak? Can we speak?" We're like,
puppy
dogs, and they were like, "No, we have our speaker list booked. You know, we did that in advance. Like, there's no room for you, but we love you guys, but no." And then we got there, and there was Jess was having, like, there was a speaker that she couldn't find for like 5 minutes or something. Like, she couldn't find, and we're like, we're ready to go. We'll take the stage right now. No prep. It doesn't matter. We'll get out there. And like, to the point where it was annoying. Like, I followed, like, Brian walked by and I said, I wasn't kidding about speaking on. He's like, yeah, I know, Jesus. And and then we said, we'll do it without pants or something. Like,
we'll get up on stage with no pants on.
Right. And that was like boom right there.
So I was walking down a hallway and I heard you say, "We'll get on stage with no pants on," and I went, "Wait, did somebody just say that out loud?" And so I had to come meet you guys.
And then we started talking about unicorns.
Yeah.
So is that the end of the lead up? I got to get my bearings here.
Well, no, I think that may have been yes, that was it for that day. Actually, we talked for maybe 40 minutes in the hallway. But then the next day, I had brought a copy of Unicorn Western, just in case.
The big one,
like,
the big
copy,
saga.
right? The big one. And so that morning, I thought, you know what? I'd love to give this to Ashley. And Johnny's like, "That's a fantastic idea." So we just brought it with us. And then we didn't see her upstairs, and we went downstairs, and I think we were going to go talk Connor quick somewhere. And we ran into her in the lobby, and we said, "Oh, let's go to Starbucks and just talk." And we ended up hanging out for the entire rest of the day.
That was it.
And it was really great, and we really got to see Ashley interact with everybody. And Johnny and I have been online for 6 years, same as Dave, and Ashley, like our circles, we know a lot of the same people, and Ashley's been doing this for 2 years. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah. Well, I started out with SEO about 7 years ago, but I really got into the industry 2 years ago.
It was just watching Ashley. I don't even want to say working a room because that sounds somehow so like
sounds
premeditated.
Very Kevin Spacey in House of Cards.
Yes, but there's no Frank Underwood. It's not. She's this. I mean, you guys will get to see her in the next half hour. She's sweet and funny and genuine, and people like that. And it's a matter of, well, I'll let Ashley talk. But go. Say something clever.
Say something sweet. Genuine.
No pressure.
I was more concerned that you were making me sound like a hooker than Kevin Spacey.
Whatever.
Yeah, well.
So I did not work the room in that way, but yeah, I love meeting people. I always joke that it's my goal when I go to a conference to meet, to become famous. So I try and meet all the famous people, and you guys apparently appeared to be famous to me.
They fooled you.
Yeah, we were totally hornswoggling.
So I remember asking you, "Oh, you guys wrote a book? What was it like to write a book?" And Johnny cracked up, and he was like, "We haven't written a book. We've written hundreds of books."
And then he showed her his abs.
That's how I roll with women.
I heard about the abs a lot, but I never saw any abs.
BOU art.
I heard a lot about unicorns and abs and Grumpy Dave.
That's our world. That's it. That is our entire universe right there.
So what's the best way to begin in terms of the audience is authors, and I think, well, so here's a good way to frame it. In Write, Publish, Repeat, we actually kind of made a big deal, and well, not a big deal, but we were like, well, we don't really use social media much. Like we gave it a glancing mention because people have to mention it, and we said, well, we talk on Twitter, we occasionally make a Facebook post every 6 weeks, and we ignore the rest. But we're not saying it's the best, but that's what we do, and we just poo-pooed the entire thing. And
I think we out loud acknowledged our limitations. It's not that we don't think there's value in social media. It's that it's for us, it's too expensive to maintain.
Yeah.
To do the job you need to do.
But if you did say that your strategy was the best, Johnny, I would make fun of you, I think.
Right. Well, we didn't say that, but we did say, and we talked about this in person, was it feels like the spend...
That there's no value, yeah.
Well, it's not that there's no value, it's that we're like, how much time would we have to spend to make it worth doing? And by the time we start to look at all that, we're like, okay, well, I'm not willing to spend that much time. I'd rather just write the next book.
Right. So you guys do a lot, so I understand why you would feel like that. But it also shocks me that you're not spending more time on social media. Just because I'm assuming that you always want to grow your audience and get the word out there more about yourselves, and continue to build up your community that you've started with your podcast and started with your novels. So I'm always shocked that you guys aren't doing more.
Hey, we started a Facebook page. I love that you started one.
I love that you phrased it in terms. I love that you phrased it in terms of whether or not those are our goals. Like, yeah, that's all of our goals.
Yeah. And if it's not, that's fine.
I use Twitter specifically to talk to readers,
Carl,
other writers, and Carl, and joke around. That's the extent of my social media.
That's great. I think you're great on Twitter. I think we follow each other now.
Darren Waremouth has an important question. Is Ashley in a pub toilet?
Yes.
Okay.
I did not realize that anybody would be able to tell. Is it echoing? Is that why?
Probably.
Yeah,
I'm in a really echoey room.
You're either in a pub toilet or inside an oil tanker. One of the two. So, but that's okay. We'll roll. But what is the? I mean, I don't know how to begin. So we talked about you sort of like live brainstorming how you would develop a social media strategy.
All right, here. I'll take it for a second.
Okay.
So when we were in Denver, one of the things Ashley kept saying to us is she was actually a little naggy about how we suck at social media and how like if she was us she would own it, and she like made us call her queen and shit. And so she basically said, I'm going to get you all these ideas, and so we thought, well, it would be cool if you actually just came on the show and we kind of live brainstorm some stuff. What would you do if you were us? Because one of the things is it's clearly confusing. I think probably not that many people listening to this now know, but we're building one umbrella site for all of us to broadcast for the very first time. And I think something like that is really, really key to starting off strong, because we're confusing. What is Realm Sands, and how does it relate to the Inkwell and the self-publishing podcast and all of that? So Ashley said two things. You need more social media presence, and you need to not be such a complete mess. And so she's had a couple of weeks to kind of look at all of our raw materials. She's a member of Fiction Unboxed, so she's looked at the forums, and she's looked at she basically knows who we are and what we do. And by kind of talking some social media out live on the show, hopefully that's really instructive for you listening, because you can take the nuggets that are most applicable to you.
Yeah, and I think that, how many weeks ago was that? 6 weeks. And I think it took me the first 3 weeks just to figure out how everybody fit together, and who Guy Incognito was, and what Realm and Sands was versus collective inkwell and who wrote what. So now that I've got that more figured out, then it's easier for me to say that. But I really wanted to focus on things that would also be applicable to your readers or your audience that's listening right now, because not every author is trying to instruct other authors. So you guys are a little bit unique in that. So the way I tried to separate that out was to think about any concept or idea or company that you can develop a community out of should have its own individual social media, or could have its own social media. So you guys talked about having your umbrella company, and you will have a community that's been following Johnny individually and that's been following Sean individually as authors, and has also been following you guys when you're doing things for Gaia Incognito. And so there will be a community of people who want to support you. I also see a community behind the beam, because like Trekkies or anybody that gets obsessed with the life that's going on or the world that's going on in the beam, I can see a community developing out of that. There's obviously a Fiction Unboxed community, so that could have its own individual Facebook page and Twitter stream or Facebook group if that's what you wanted to do. But you can see that authors like, I think of an author that just does one genre. You guys are so different because you do every genre, and I don't know if I know any other authors like that. But like, I think of like Danielle Steele, for example. Her individual books would not have individual Facebook pages, whereas I could foresee The Beam having its own individual Facebook page. So,
so you're on record. Are you saying that? Are you saying that we're better than Danielle Steele? Is that
That's exactly what I said. Yeah.
Okay, just wanted to clarify.
So just as an aside thing, this has nothing to do with social media, but within like a week of being home, Ashley had read like 6 of our books or something. It was kind of absurd.
I'm still so disappointed because I thought The Beam was going to be finished.
Yeah, not even close.
I wanted to text you guys at 1 a.m. and say, "What happened?"
We don't know yet.
Yeah, that would have been received well by my wife, I'm sure.
Yeah. No, she would probably say, "I need to know too."
And she does. It's killing her.
Yeah.
But okay. So here's where I go. In 99 Designs ad read fashion, go, well, Ashley, that sure sounds like a fuckload of work. I don't want to do it. Are you saying that social media is a waste of time for us because there's too much to do?
That's exactly what I'm saying, so forget about it entirely. No, you guys are really great at building communities, and you have an insane amount of random thoughts coming out of your heads at any moment. So I could foresee you posting those as they come out of your fingers on your typewriter, on your.
You're saying not to waste our overflow? Like,
don't
we have
waste
a lot
our
of dribble.
overflow.
That sounds like terrible advice.
If you guys could come up with an hour-long podcast and people wanted to listen to it with your insane dribble, then you could have a Facebook page.
If only we ever did that every week after this one.
I know.
We got a comment from JP Howell that says, it surprises me that you guys don't spend more, quote, parentheses, read any time in the G Plus community about this show. Somebody made a community for us, and we have to post anything ourselves.
To me, that's arrogant to me. You know what I mean? Like that the community is made by fans and listeners. So here she goes. She's going to correct me.
Of course it's arrogant, so it's having a podcast.
Wow, there you go.
Nobody ever thinks the word arrogant.
Wow, right to the gut.
Well, here's what
Okay.
here's what I want to get out of this. So we got Sterling Stone. You're saying all these books, and to me, like in all seriousness, like that does sound like way too much. Like because if it was like, okay, you can have a Sterling and Stone Twitter account and Facebook and just put your energy into them, then I'd almost be like, okay, let's do it because it's one thing.
Yeah.
But if we're spreading out, how the hell do we manage that and still have time to do anything else?
And I do think Johnny's saying it would be arrogant for us to show up in the G Plus community made for. I don't think he's saying it's arrogant that we're ignoring it. No, I think he's saying it's arrogant if we showed up there.
Oh, that's totally what I meant. Yeah, I hope that was.
Oh no, I was saying that it's assuming that people care to hear about your life, like on Facebook, is arrogant. Just like being an author is, it's assuming that people want to hear what you have to say. But you guys have become successful with it. People do want to hear. So I went through.
All three of us had an audience before we were writing, though. We were all blogging, and people cared about us already.
But blogging is also arrogant. I totally get what she's saying. Like, you have to believe, and I would reframe that as confidence. I would reframe that as this isn't the first time. This isn't the first time that I've corrected Ashley's on a word. He also said that she donated to our Kickstarter, and I said, no, you didn't. You purchased for value.
It wasn't like a sympathy donation.
It wasn't a sympathy donation. Okay. But seriously, how do you manage all of that when you're trying to write and deal with all the other stuff?
Yeah, because all of us agree that it's an absolute need and it's something for us to do better. But we're lucky we get through our inboxes. We're lucky we get our work done. So how do we add that in?
So I have 3 thoughts with that. The first being I went through some of your content and pulled out some examples that would, just not take any time at all. It doesn't have to be unique thought. So I have some examples for you for things I think you guys could do on social media. In addition to that, there's so many tools out there. The one that I brought up that I work for is Sharist. It enables me to manage all my social media accounts from one login, and I can start different projects. So I could see Roman Sands being one project. If you decided to try and build a community out of the Beam, that being one project, and then another project being Gaia Incognito, so anything you thought you could build a community out of, those would be your projects. And then you could connect up your Facebook page, your blog, your Twitter, your LinkedIn, your Google+, everything to that project. So you do one post, and then it posts out to everything. And if you're ever sitting around on a Saturday and you have extra time, that never happens to guys, does it? Never mind, scratch that. But you can schedule it out. So if you think that you're having one of those moments where you have a bunch of good ideas, then you schedule it out to post later.
Okay, so here's my pushback on that.
Before he gets to a real question, I have to ask: does anybody actually use LinkedIn? Because I get invites all the time, and I ignore them all the time.
Yeah, I can't see you guys on LinkedIn because it's definitely B2B.
Yeah, LinkedIn's pro. LinkedIn's for professionals. No, LinkedIn is for people who went to school, not like us. Johnny fits in with those LinkedIn folks.
But the business stuff that we do, like the business, maybe although I don't know if there's any value in us talking.
No,
about
I actually do agree. Write, Publish, Repeat is good for LinkedIn. The Beam, not so much.
I do think that every business or community or anything needs to have a Facebook page and a Twitter profile. Beyond that, it's all about who your audience is. So if you're B2B, and I can see there being a B2B side to you guys reaching out to authors, to teaching people how to do podcasts. But I don't think it would be your primary focus. So the other ones, sounds like you guys already have some people on Google+. And if there's, for example, a writer who really reaches out to females, they should be on Pinterest because that's where women are hanging out.
Johnny can put pictures of his abs on there.
All right, so wait, I have a question. So I totally get the need for all this. I 100% agree. But it's also the pushback. Like right now, I suck. Like I officially suck. If someone says something to me on Twitter and Facebook, like it's so low on the hierarchy, right? If somebody sends me an email, that I read that. Like that happens. The only snafu comments from the site that got lost. But I answer all my email. If it's on Facebook or Twitter, I'm just less likely I'm not going to be in that environment, and they drop off. So if I can't even keep up with it now, anytime I post something, like the whole point is engagement, right? You want to post something so that people talk back to you. So I don't respond now, and now I post stuff that I'm going to ignore and suck even harder, and that hurts people's feelings. Like I don't want anyone to feel like I'm ignoring them. But
you're making yourself sound old.
Can we engage with these people without actually having to engage with them?
Well, no, that's the whole point. Like I don't want to do it if I can't be sincere. Like that's the point.
Yeah, I think that when people get in that situation, it's really helpful to have a social media manager. So if you guys had somebody on staff with you that really knew you and knew your voices and knew your material.
To fake being us?
No.
Yeah, that's what that sounds like.
No, to filter it
out. Do.
Yes, that's true. But to filter it out and say, to interact with your audience as a part of you, but then to say, email Sean, or send him a letter in the mail and say, hey, this was an important comment. I think you should be the one to respond to this as opposed to me. I think that's helpful.
No, I think that's very, very logical.
I don't think there's anything wrong with having because otherwise you get buried in details. I mean, if the Beam has its own Twitter account, for instance, just to take it down to the most granular level, it's somebody, Archer Caldwell. Not that he wants to be our social media manager, but that dude knows the Beam. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, it doesn't have to be us necessarily.
No, and our fans, whether they're fans of the podcast or fans of our books, they want us to produce more. So I don't think they want us, and we've really seen that in Unboxed, right, guys? Like the amount of people who are like, no, you just go. Like, go. Like, they want us to produce, they want us to do what we're good at. And that's not losing hours and hours in social media. But I agree, a community manager would be great. When we talk about,
that it's supposed to build a community, when comments come up or tweets come up where somebody has a question, your community is going to end up jumping in there. You guys have, like you said, people that have been following you for a long time. You'll have what I would refer to as evangelists jump in there and answer questions for you and interact, and you guys won't be the only ones that are responsible for keeping that going. Some of the things that, do you guys want to hear some of the things I thought would be easy for you to keep up with?
Yes, I'd love to.
Absolutely.
Okay. So when I was going through some of your Fiction Unboxed stuff, and then some of your books and some of your older blogs, and just what I've listened to you say before, I think that people have a real interest in hearing your principles. So when you guys talked to me at Starbucks, one of the things that I said that I was afraid to write because I feel like I sound like I'm copying a book that I've read before. And you guys said to me, it's okay to. It's one of your principles that not to be afraid because you feel like you're copying something else. And that kind of became a joke with us. And so I actually have my books signed. We copied this from someone else. But those kinds of principles, other writers who are following you need to hear those things. So just even writing down, if you had. How do you guys take notes? Do you guys write stuff down on paper? No?
No, I do.
Do you have somebody follow Sean around with a recorder so you can catch all the genius?
I would need a system. So I wouldn't take undirected notes. If I knew what I was going to do with them, then I would probably have a solution in mind. So, for instance, I assume you can dictate right to Evernote on your phone. I would probably do something like that. But I would need to know what I'm doing with it, so I'm not just making garbage.
Right. But I do think that do you guys feel like you have a feel for how important it is for authors to hear those kinds of hints? You said something in one of your Fiction Unboxed videos when you guys, you said it's okay to write a lot and then throw it all away.
And we say so many things we can't remember them all.
Right. It's awesome. There's like little nuggets.
Dave has a hard time tracking his genius.
It's why every time I was sitting with you guys, I had my notebook out taking notes on what you said, and it almost got embarrassing. But as a someday aspiring writer, I want to remember those things so that I remember you said it's okay to write a lot and throw it away.
Oh my God, walking around with Ashley and her friend Shannon was like being. I mean, you want to feel like a celebrity. They were walking around, and we'd say something, go, ooh, 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 and they'd both get out notebooks and write it down. It was just like...
We wanted to make t-shirts out of everything you guys said, because you just have these little ways of saying things, and they're not things that you necessarily come up with on the fly, but you'll say things, and Johnny, you'll say, that's something we always say. I'm trying to think of an example off the top of my head, but you'll say, oh yeah, that's one of our principles as writers. Oh, like when you guys were talking about opening up boxes and then closing them. So you were saying it's not important for us to completely conclude a thought. We call that closing boxes. So we open up a bunch of boxes, and if they're not closed right away, that's okay. So that was one of the things I wrote down. If you guys were just typing those out quickly and scheduling them to go out to Twitter and scheduling them to go out to Facebook, it's not going to take you a lot of time. I think that's the example I came up with that would probably take the most time.
I have two questions I'd like to get in the queue here, and they're unrelated, so somebody help me remember them. The first is how could we do this with an admin? Because it seems to me like if all I'm doing, like, because I want to figure out the easiest, fastest way to do it while still being genuine. So if I could like dictate into my phone and that goes into an Evernote that is checked by an admin who then schedules them, that would be okay with me. So admin is the question, and the separate question, which is probably more relevant, is for the audience here is largely not going to be talking to other writers.
Right.
And so giving tips about writing is less interesting, although I've heard that fiction authors, some people like to hear the process anyway.
Right. So let's address the first one first. As far as an admin goes, you guys have a ton of content that is already online. So just even going through the comments that you've put in Fiction Unboxed when you guys have answered people's questions, there's little nuggets of genius in there that you... I'm feeding the arrogance here, I know. I'm sorry.
That's what Dave calls it when he cleans his cat's litter boxes.
Nuggets of genius?
Yeah.
Johnny has not one but two different T-shirts that say "Nuggets of Genius" with an arrow going down.
Oh, gee.
I don't actually have that shirt.
Let me think about a different thing to say. Okay, let me try again. You guys have some one-liners in the comments that you could have an admin pull out and put on your Facebook or Twitter feed. Hopefully Johnny doesn't have a T-shirt that says one-liner with an arrow going down.
Yeah, we knew a cartoon.
That would be false advertising.
We knew a cartoonist could somehow creatively combine the words and pieces of a cartoon and put that out. That might be cool too.
We do know a cartoonist. I think it's the opposite of fast, though.
Yeah. So I can see an admin doing that for you, or if you had notes on what you had said and just wanted those to get scheduled out for different times. One of the things that I do as a social media manager is go back through all the old blog posts and schedule those to go out, and I use Shares to do all of this. So I schedule old content to go out. I schedule one-liners from content. I schedule other people's quotes, so testimonials. I would put all of that out on social media. And again, going back to what we talked about, you guys said, are your goals? It would make a difference what you're posting. You would always have to go back to what your goals are and who your audience is. So if your goal is to inspire people to write more, you're going to post stuff about that. If your goal is to be transparent as an author so people can get to know your personality a little bit better, you'd post in relation to that. Or if it's to gain exposure, but it would always be in the way of thinking that you're not trying to broadcast yourself, but you're creating relationships and you're creating community there. And I was thinking, I'm going back, I'm jumping around now too, but I was thinking about knowing your voice, because obviously your voice is going to be different if it's Dave posting versus if it's Sean posting. I was reading something that you guys wrote on Fiction Unboxed today, and it said, "This is so boss," and I could hear Sean saying it in my head.
Yeah,
so
I'm starting
I think
to notice those everywhere in fiction. I'm like, oh, there's a Seanism.
Yeah, this is so boss.
He also likes the word nursed, if somebody would be nursing malcontent.
That's not what I thought you were going to say about nursing.
It's a mommy thing.
So I think that letting people hear your voice, even an admin could, or a social media manager could do that for you, because he or she would be taking excerpts out of your old content that you've already put online.
Yeah, no, this is all really great, because I think this is all stuff we've talked about, all stuff that we know that we need to do. I think the big game changers for us will be once we get past Unboxed, we're going to have the first admin, and that will make a really big difference, I think, in what we can get done. And we're also launching our umbrella site, which makes it so much easier to understand and broadcast. And we'll give you an early peek in there so you can kind of see. I think you'll really dig what we're doing. It's in line with all.
And it'd be easy for a manager to keep people updated on what's coming up with Fiction Unboxed because you're already putting it on your blog. So just to publish it, and that's again why I use Sharist, because if I'm already publishing it to my blog through Sharist, then it's really easy for me to just hit another button and it goes straight to Facebook and Twitter.
Amy Schubert asks, does Sharist let you manage schedule Pinterest posts? She didn't see that on the website.
Yeah, Pinterest has not opened up their API yet, so they don't allow scheduling to... there's some companies that do it, but it's because they've hacked something up on their own without having to have access to Pinterest. It's the same with Google+. So Google Plus has only opened up their API to, I think, like 3 companies. Buffer is one of them, so we just go through, Sharist just goes through Buffer to post to Google Plus. But no, Pinterest isn't available yet. As soon as it is, it'll be on there.
I have sort of a big boondoggle of a question, but it's hopefully you can take the nugget of this without, because I know how I would answer.
I don't want to talk about nuggets anymore.
There you go. And it's a non-answer, but my question is always because Pinterest made me think of this. Like, people say that conversion on Pinterest is like less than shit. You know, it's
less than a nugget.
Less than a nugget. And I mean, we've tried half-heartedly to, like, you know, we have a self-publishing podcast fan Facebook page, and there's some automatic updates, and we post stuff manually when we think of it, and it doesn't grow really fast. The core of this question is, I know you can't necessarily track like income or sales.
Yeah, you can.
Okay, let's hear it.
Okay, so I feel like I'm talking a lot about Sharist, and I'm sorry because I didn't necessarily intend to do that, but in Sharist, we just added something where you can connect it to your goals in Google Analytics. So if you've set up a goal, if you know and this is getting very technical, but if you know the lifetime value of a new customer, then you can set that up as a goal in Google Analytics. The Sharist will now connect to Google Analytics through their API, and every time you post something on your blog, on Facebook, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, on any of those, you will be able to see, it will tie back to that goal, and you will be able to see if that resulted in a conversion for you.
Because you're using trackable links, essentially.
Yes, because you're posting from a third-party app, it allows Sharist to track that link. So you can see if you posted a quote on Facebook, if that resulted in any new customers for you. So for example, a conversion for you guys, and I know you used to be in internet marketing, so you're familiar with this, but a conversion might be a new newsletter sign up. And based on the goal that you set up inside of Google Analytics, you would know that a newsletter sign up was worth $1 to you because that was the lifetime value of a newsletter subscriber. So then if you posted a quote on Facebook, you would be able to track back through how many conversions that post resulted in and how much that post was worth to you. So you could see at that point, we spent 15 minutes making that post. We got 16 newsletter signups. The lifetime value of those 16 newsletter signups was $16. So was that 15 minutes worth the $16?
Dave is super into this stuff. This is his favorite part.
I remember hearing something. I remember hearing something about, I don't know if it was Facebook's EdgeRank algorithm or something, but I remember, and this could be totally off base, hearing something about Facebook not liking stuff that was posted through a third-party app. Is there any validity to that?
Absolutely. They just identified 2 different kinds of third-party apps. One was implicit posts and one was explicit. So I just wrote an article on the Sharist blog about this. So implicit posts are things like if you listen to a song on Spotify and you don't say for that individual song, go share this song on Facebook, but Spotify just posted Facebook for you. So if you're not identifying that you want that specific thing posted, it's an implicit post. If you say, I just took a bike ride, post that to Facebook, and you hit the little post to Facebook button, that's an explicit post. I'm worried that I'm boring Dave. Dave, are you so bored?
But Dave is bored 90% of the time when we don't talk about creativity.
Okay, guys.
I'm listening. Please.
Okay, so the implicit posts, which means a third-party app is posting without your permission at that very second, are being no longer shown. The explicit posts, so if you tell Sharist, post this for me right now, those are not affected.
You might just be disappointing him because he had a different picture of explicit post. It may just be that.
I was picturing Johnny on a bicycle, and it was very explicit.
That is explicit. So if you're able to track, is there any common denominator in what sorts of things do convert, or is it just random depending on the company? Because if you can track that, I'm just wondering if there's any big picture stuff in terms of, well, if you post about this sort of thing.
Commonalities,
yeah.
So there's definitely commonalities, and I would think of those as best practices. So things like when you include an image, it tends to convert more. But I think that a lot of it depends on your audience. So you know if your audience is, one of the examples I was thinking of, if you had a Facebook page for Guy Incognito and you were posting stuff that you wanted kids to read, that probably wouldn't convert highly because kids aren't on Facebook, or they're not supposed to be.
They're on LinkedIn.
Yeah, they're on Snapchat, so let's get into that though. But if you change your posts to really reach out to who your audience is, and you're able to see all of that in Facebook Insights, if you realize, okay, our audience is mostly made up of stay-at-home moms who have super smart kids who couldn't find books for their super smart kids that didn't have sensitive topics in them. If you realize that's your audience and you start posting for your audience as opposed to posting what you think you should be posting, then it's going to convert higher. But there's definitely trends that we would think of as best practices, so things like including an image, including a Twitter card, those kinds of things. But it depends on your audience. That was a two-part answer.
We have a question in the comments from Ryan Attard. He says, with regards to connecting with the audience, should you respond and engage with people one-on-one, or should you post, tweet, whatever, be more of a scattershot approach, broad range and hitting the masses, or target specific people? Also, how brief should your individual posts be? The small tweet, 150 characters, I thought it was 140, limit, or go with a Patrick Rothfuss style post? This is more of a Facebook, Twitter question.
Okay, so my initial answer would be to test what works with your audience, but that's such a ridiculous generic answer because, again, there's best practices. So I try to keep tweets shorter than 140 because if somebody retweets it, then they typically want to add in their own comment. So if you keep it around 110, I almost said 116, that's really specific. So if you keep it a little bit shorter, they have the opportunity to add in.
Sean likes to make his 420.
I know. So I try to keep it a little bit shorter. I tend to keep my Facebook posts short, but I've seen a lot of people test with doing blog-length Facebook posts and have a lot of success. So it depends on what your audience responds to. In regard to segmenting out your audience, I go through and I segment out. So if I'm working with a new company and I'm managing their social media, I have them define their audiences for me. So there may be 16 different types of people, and I get really detailed, the same way you guys do with characters. In fact, I actually used one of your character sketches as an example, and I did my audience breakdown in Scrivener. So I imagined that each of these 16 different types of audiences were a character, and I asked myself,
that's awesome.
What are they doing with their day? What are they? Where are they hanging out? And I asked myself the same things you guys would ask yourselves about characters. And that way, every single Twitter tweet or Facebook post is reaching out to a specific type of audience. So going back to Guy Incognito, you may know that one of your audiences is moms. You may also know that one of your smaller audiences is 13-year-old kids, and so I would try and reach them differently. That gets into ads because then you can do ads that specifically target each of those audience members, and Facebook lets you get really granular. You're able to drill down with education level and income level and household size and all those things with ads. So testing the different short and long. Oh, I know what I wanted to say too. When I am addressing a specific person on Facebook, I always use their first name and tag them in it because people love that. So if somebody asks me a question and I'm going to respond, I always tag them. And I delete their last name out of that so it feels a little bit more personable.
Yeah, I love that Facebook
That's a
thing
great
where
trip,
you'd be like, I really agree with you, Ashley Coombe.
Yeah. And they're like, wow, that's kind of weird. And you can also delete the first name. So if I typically refer to Sean as Platt, then I could delete his first name and I could be like, hey, I really agree with you, Platt. That was a great point.
Oh, wow. That's useful for the copy blogger crew who all calls each other by the last names.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you delete both names?
Anybody calls me by their last name, I'm decking them.
Derailed by Dan.
Can you delete somebody's name and use a nickname? No.
I feel like we should kind of wrap it up because we've been sprawling on SPP lately. But do you, Dave, are there any last questions to just make sure that people are getting their questions answered?
Quotidian Light, going back to an earlier comment, says, "Of course it's arrogant. So is having a podcast." LMFAO, best quote ever, Ashley.
See, no, so she should schedule that shit right there.
I might.
Our audience likes to make fun of us. That's our target audience.
When we get together again, can you follow us around with a notebook taking our quotes, and then we have somebody following behind you taking your quotes? Ideally about us.
Do you guys remember how I wanted a sticker for the back of my phone? So when I'm constantly on it, I wanted to have a sticker that said, "I'm not trying to be rude. I'm tweeting your brilliance." So I wanted to follow you guys around and tweet everything you said.
I like that. I also
Johnny fell in love.
Wearing your fingers out.
Yeah.
That was it on the question. I don't see any new questions after that.
All right. Well, why don't we tie it up? But before that, before we tie it up, I just wanted to just going back to Denver. When we were walking around, do you remember what company we talked about a whole shitload? Do you remember the caption access discussions by any chance?
I'm trying so hard not to make a really funny comment about this.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to be funny on this show.
Yeah, no. we wouldn't want you to make a funny comment. That sounds like a horrible idea.
I would make another funny comment about you talking about 99 designs. I remember that caption access maybe saves dying puppies.
That's exactly right.
That was the one.
I have to remind you about that. Yes, they did. And actually, we were walking around, and there was they got the like trolley cars, and there was a homeless man who was about to be cut in half, and then Bill Graham came out of nowhere and pulled him out. I mean, do you remember that? Like that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
We like.
Isn't caption access responsible for legalizing marijuana in Colorado?
John is so over the top of the ad. He just doesn't know where the line is. It depends on
if you appreciate marijuana or not. Do we like marijuana on the show?
I think it's tacit approval. It seems that way.
I think they're the ones that not only were responsible for legalizing it, but making sure that people use it responsibly.
That sounds like an excellent answer. They also provide. They also provide transcriptioning, live event captioning, and they'll give you a third off if you tell them that you found them through us. Captionaccess.com. Excellent.
Ryan Attard says your best product just might be a T-shirt with all of the Dave quotes.
Oh my God!
That actually should be a T-shirt right there.
So if I could pollute this podcast just for a half a second, Dave made new podcast art for Better Off Undead. Do you have that ready? Because the quotes.
I don't have it ready.
Quotes that people said about Better Off Undead, he had them listed and there were too many because usually iTunes ranks it and people couldn't read them. But Dave had a list of all the things pulled from our actual iTunes reviews. The one that made it to the final cut and made it bigger was "It is a podcast." And there was something about licking its kitty cat part.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
If you don't have it.
I got it. It just takes a second to pull it out.
When we're discussing
Sean is so mature.
When we're discussing having somebody follow you around and write things down, couldn't Caption Access provide that service, and then everything Caption Access gave back to you, you could schedule into Sharis, and it would automatically be your social media.
And if you put that into a book, the 99designs.com/SPP.
Wow.
So here's Dave's Better Off Undead art, and then we'll
click
bring
on
this
my
to a
window.
close. Here are actual listener quotes from iTunes reviews for Better Off Undead. The worstest, entertaining as hell, holy crap, licking its kitty cat part. Never listen to this show unless you're into self-mutilation. It is a podcast. Dreadfully entertaining. Love you guys. And meh. I was just looking at this art. Like I was putting it up, and just the cartoons that Dave made of the three of us are just so incredibly funny.
Again, I'm going to go back to saying it baffles me that you guys are creating that kind of art and hilarity and not putting it on a Facebook page.
We like to keep it to ourselves.
Right, keep our brilliance to ourselves.
Yeah, we're terrible people.
Except for the parts that you say on microphone.
There we go.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out.
All right, so this has been the Self-Publishing Podcast. Ashley is. Do we want to talk about Sharest? Is that and?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, so Sharest.com, SHAREIST. Is that correct?
Yep. So share and then IST. And if you, I put up a social media checklist today on the blog specifically so that we could refer your readers back to some social media checklists.
And is that just main page? You'll find it. Like, what if somebody finds this podcast years later?
Centuries later.
God help them.
After we're all dead.
Somebody's going to find this podcast and then stand in front of it. I just stepped all over that. Blog.sharest.com for the early June 2014. I was going to say somebody's going to find this podcast in the desert and go, "You maniacs! You blew this podcast up." Where Planet of the Apes.
Wow. That one actually caused pain.
Terrible.
It did, especially since I had to stop in the middle and then repeat it, which is always good for a joke. So this has been the Self-Publishing Podcast. Thanks, everybody, for listening, and we'll see you next week.